Welcome, and we're going to start tonight on our second part of our 5-part program we call Proofs of the Christian Faith. And tonight we're going to look at evidences, proofs of God's existence. And so hopefully, after we're done, we're going to get us all thinking about what we believe, why we believe it, and the powerful evidences that God has left for us to know Him, to know that He's there. Okay, so we're going to start in the Word, and I was thinking, I've heard so many times, how do you prove the existence of God? And so I thought, well, how does He say to do it? And so we're going to look into the Bible, and we're going to look at a couple things that God has to say, and then we're going to test them out just to see if it really is true, if it really lines up with reality and what we can observe. Okay, so I need a couple people to read for us. We're going to start with Genesis 1:1, and then after that we'll follow with Hebrews chapter 1, verse 3. So let me read Genesis for us.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Okay, so we have a statement that says God created the heavens, everything that can be created, and the earth. Okay, all right. Now, Hebrews chapter 1, verse 3.
The sun is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of His being, sustaining all things by His powerful word. After He had provided purification for sins, He sat down at the right hand of the majesty in heaven.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a claim that God created everything that can be created, and then the word was sustain. That what we're pulling out of what's said in Hebrews is that God also sustains. Jesus, by His word, sustains everything that is created. Okay, so it's not just that He's saying that He just did something and then off it went. It's saying that He's continuing that. Okay, both have to be true. Okay, so we're going to look into that at this time. Okay, now, God said He started things. He said He created it, all that kind of thing. I've had a hard time finding a religion that doesn't just basically borrow from that, or just says that things were just kind of there, doesn't deal with it, except for one. There is a new, very popular religion that deals with origins, and that religion is called evolution. It was started in the 1800s by a guy named Darwin, who came up with a theory, they call it, of evolution, and it's kind of turned into a religion, and I'm going to show you why, but it's exactly the opposite of what God said, and what is brought throughout the Bible. So I want to kind of play those two against each other, and let's just see which rings true, which seems more reasonable and more plausible. Now, last week we talked about probabilities. So again, when we bring something up, we need to be thinking, what are the probabilities of it happening in one way, or what are the probabilities of it happening in the other way? And then the second law of thermodynamics, which we talked about last week, we're going to also bring that into play. So we're going to start by reading one more scripture in our investigation here. Quite interesting what God has to say. We're going to open to the book of Psalms and chapter 19. I think what we're going to be reading the first 4 verses. And in case you didn't catch us last time, we'll be reading out of the New International Version. And so we're at Psalm chapter 19 and verses 1 through 4. If somebody could read that for us.
The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they display knowledge. There is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. In the heavens.
Okay, that's good. Just through the 4. Thank you. Okay. And that part, there's another part of the verse, but that's where we need to stop, because there's some incredible things being said here. Okay, it says the heavens, everything that was created, so you can go back to Genesis, declare the glory of God. Okay, to declare means to speak out, to say it. And the skies proclaim, again, speaking out, the work of his hands. And it continues on saying, day after day, they pour forth speech. Okay? There is no speech or language where their voice is not heard. Their voice goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. Okay, how many here, and for you there, have had a star come up to you and just say, "What's up? How you doing today?"
No.
No? What? It says their speech here. What's going on? What's the deal here? Is there a way that we can communicate which speaks to us but doesn't use words?
Sign language?
Okay, there's one. And the sign languages do make words. Okay? But that's very good. That's a very good guess. But I'm thinking of some other ways.
Your spiritual conscious.
Okay, that could possibly be too. But I'm thinking, if you have a couple of tracks running along, we call them railroad tracks, and let me speak to you, okay? The railroad tracks are here. Ding, 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 ding. What does that say to you when you're approaching the
You
railroad
better
track?
stop.
You better stop. If you don't, you may kind of look like a very bloody pancake. So, did it actually say that, speak that to you?
No.
No.
Give you a sign.
If somebody knows how to drive in this country but doesn't speak English, would it say the same thing to them in their language?
Yeah.
So there's no speech where that voice isn't heard. Okay, this says everything in creation has been talking to us. Have we been listening? Okay, well, we'll find out. All right, now, if God said everything he created glorifies him, and it just proclaims that, then let's start with our solar system. And again, we're going to do a comparison with the evolution religion that says that things just by at absolute random came into being. They just, over millions of years, just kind of fluttered around or whatever, and suddenly everything evolved, over millions of years. Okay. These planets, in an orderly fashion, every year, year after year, keep spinning around the sun. Okay. Now, I said the word orderly. They're not running into each other all the time. We haven't been sitting around going, "Oh no!" because Mars just flew by. Somehow, just orderly spinning all year after year after year. Now, if someone designed that, if someone created it and set it up, it would be an orderly thing that could keep going if somebody had the power and the knowledge and all that kind of stuff to do it. Now, if it came together at random, if it's just something that randomly sort of happened, we don't know how, but it sort of randomly happened, then randomness would continue. Okay? Why did randomness stop? That's a question we must ask. So, for something to just be floating around, it's kind of like if we took 8 balls and threw them in the air and expected them every single time to come down in a perfect pattern. what do you think the probabilities are of that happening?
It was 0.
They're going to bounce all over the place, and it's going to be disorderly. Second law of thermodynamics, everything going from order to disorder and wholeness to decay. Okay? So the probabilities of one planet connecting with the sun and starting to zip around just at random. I mean, it was over here in another, who knows, galaxy, whatever, and then it just decided it wanted to come over to this one. So over it came. Randomly. Okay? That's a little hard to believe. But when you multiply that 8 times, not to mention moons and stuff, we'll get into that, but when you multiply that randomness, that probability 8 times over, your probability just increases in multiples and multiples of it being impossible to happen. Just 8 of them spinning around the sun, not running into each other year after year. If the littlest one slammed into us, we don't exist. If that randomness just continued, even a little thing, little planet, it would be catastrophic to the Earth. Created orderly, sustained orderly. Randomness cannot create order. And I'm going to do a little thing with us here. I have a problem with people folding laundry after they wash it. I think that's the dumbest waste of time that's ever been. Everybody knows that if you just take it in there, into the room, throw it up in the air, it's going to fold itself, go hang itself up, and put it in the drawer, right?
No.
What do you mean, no? You're just not scientific enough. Everybody knows that it would go from that randomness into perfect order, right?
No.
Oh, thank God you're not scientific enough to believe that. Randomness is going to produce randomness. Okay? From what we can observe in this pattern of our solar system, somebody put it in place and somebody set it up and is sustaining that. It didn't, the probabilities, whoever wants to do it can do it. All right, now we're going to move kind of into the Earth's atmosphere and think about some things going on here. Now, we know we have to breathe in oxygen to continue life. Plants need carbon dioxide. There's a mixture of chemicals floating around in our air. Now, what happens if by random chance we get way too much oxygen in our atmosphere? Would that be a problem?
Yes.
Try not making a spark. Oxygen is very flammable. You can't have fire without oxygen. If we have too much oxygen present, we have a real fire danger. If it's just totally oxygen, then we could be torched like that. Did it randomly just come out to the perfect balance, or was it designed that way? Figure the probabilities on it. Okay. Now, everybody, the fairer our skin is, when we go out in the sun, the more chance we have of getting a sunburn. Now, here's something that sounds pretty random to me. Somehow we go out and we have these things, we know they're called ultraviolet rays, and they sunburn us. Well, is that good design to put something in there that's going to hurt people? That's not good for them? That's a very good question. Well, we have to do a little study and find out that ultraviolet lights kill algae. Many people knew that already. Okay? If we can't control algae in our water systems, they will multiply, 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 and guess what? We're going to be real thirsty. Okay? So a little bit of ultraviolet light comes in through what we call the ozone layer layer and the oxygen also absorbs ultraviolet light, but there are three kinds of ultraviolet light. Ultraviolet A comes straight through, it's not stopped. It's got the least energy in it, and it does the least damage to living things. Ultraviolet B, some comes through, but most of it is actually reflected back out by our atmosphere. It could do far more damage, but it's regulated on how much comes through. Ultraviolet C has the most energy of any of the ultraviolet lights, and it is very, very damaging to life. We would be in trouble. Guess what happens with the ozone layer? Totally absorbs that oxygen, totally absorbs ultraviolet C, doesn't touch us. So even that thing that can do a little damage to our skin over time, if we stay out all the time and we're exposed to too much, our skin will adjust. Who told our skin to get darker, by the way? Who put that there? Oh, just random chance? Or did somebody design it? But the bottom line is, it can still damage us if we aren't careful. However, it's very mild and it serves a very important purpose. Did the ozone layer randomly evolve itself? We've got to stop that ultraviolet C, but we're going to let a little bit of B through and we'll let A go by. Did that happen just, oh well, and suddenly, wow, that was cool, it accidentally was good? Or was it designed that way? You figure the probabilities of each. I think it shows it was designed, and designed for an obvious purpose. Okay? All right, so we have a little bit of oxygen, we have ozone, we're talking about ultraviolet. Let's move into us now, into our bodies. They're part of the heavens that God created. Do they speak to us about the glory of God, or do they just show that randomly they came together and everything just worked out that way? Okay. Now, everybody has a little heart in here, right? Okay. I mean, everybody from the kind has the same thing. That's interesting. If it was random, would that be? That's an order, but that's the bonus. I'm not even going that way with this. Okay, we have a heart. Our heart is beating. Okay, what happens if you're sitting still, and all of a sudden your heart just decides it wants to go faster, a lot faster?
Heart attack.
You might do that. You're having a real problem. What happens if it gets kind of tired?
Stroke.
It just says it wants to
In trouble.
take it easy for a while. Okay? Who told it couldn't? Who told it how many beats it was supposed to do per minute? It just accidentally happened. Okay, we'll figure the probabilities of that. But what happens when you start running?
Heart beats faster.
It beats faster. You told it to do that, right? When you start, okay, let's go, fast, come on, fast. Okay, not too fast, slow down. Okay, you got, no, too slow, come on, faster. Is that what happens every time you run? No? Did you think about that?
No.
It just happens? Wow, what an awesome accident, huh? Would you think that? Is it logical to think that? Okay. Now, that heart is pumping blood. Okay, we have a circulatory system. Okay. Our blood cells, every living cell in us, needs blood to go in and take oxygen, stuff like that. Right now I'm not going to get into the complexity of putting the two together. We're just going to look at the one. Okay, so your blood somehow evolved itself to just know, maybe there's a little micro midget in there that has a stop sign and has a, telling this cell, you, over there, and this one go over there. Just somehow happened, I don't know, but it passes through the cells. Now, how does it know to stop at the last cell and not just pour out? It evolved that way, right? Okay. What happens if we had to bleed to death for millions of years before it finally evolved itself and figured out that somehow we have to make this different and the blood has to stop? The whole species is going to bleed to death before we ever evolved to where that worked right. That's one system. Think about the probability of that. Now, it's carrying oxygen. Okay? What happens if we evolved perfectly except the lungs? Lungs are so stubborn. They take so long. So we just sat around, our heart's beating fine, everything's going fine. How long, does anybody know how long we can live without oxygen? Roughly.
Like a minute or something?
4 or 5 minutes?
4 minutes.
Okay, that's what I've heard roughly. I wouldn't suggest you test it out, but that's what I've heard roughly. Okay, so before we evolved the lungs to get the oxygen in there, we were dying in 4 minutes. That means to continue the species, we have to be born and reproduce in 4 minutes. Have we seen that happen in the human race?
No.
No. Oh, it had to. Maybe, I know, it evolved over that time because it needed to, and then when it didn't need to, it just devolved. Okay. It shows a design that must be complete. Okay? The design in our bodies, you can't say, okay, this system will work, that system will work, but this one won't yet. Doesn't work that way. It all has to work, and it has to work together, and it has to work properly. All the systems in the body working together and working properly by chance. What are the odds? Well, somebody go figure. I mean, each system has odds that are incredible when you put them all together. It's ridiculous to even go there. It screams that somebody knew what they were doing, somebody way smarter than us, and put this thing together and made it work. By the way, again, if it happened randomly, why haven't we evolved to where the heart just, for everybody, started going crazy? The creator and sustainer of all things. It's working, it's staying. Okay? By chance or by creation. I know what I'm seeing here. Okay. Got another thing for us. Everybody heard of the appendix, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody know what it's there for?
No.
Okay. This was one that people would say for a long, long time, this wonderful design. You got something hanging there that does nothing. Right. God, this smart God designed this thing and just hung something there. It means nothing. I understand that Darwin, the creator of the evolution religion, thought that it might have somehow been connected to the tail of the monkey that we came from, and that maybe it was for digestion in those days, but I guess it just stopped. Okay, something like that. Forgive me if it's not accurate. Well, we had a friend that went to the hospital a few years ago, and he had the appendix problem, and they didn't take it out. You know, always you have appendix, big problem, they cut it out. Why did they do that? Well, I found out that they have now discovered, and it's amazing how we didn't hear people just yelling and screaming about it, just kind of quietly found out it is an active part of the immune system. All these years, people were saying, oh, look at God, his dumb right design, give me a break. And God just going, is that right? So finally, we caught up to find out it's an active part of our immune system. That's why they didn't cut it out. By chance, we know that this thing is is by chance, but we didn't even see that this thing that's showing us it's by chance because it doesn't even belongs. Is there somebody that created us that knew what he was doing? Okay. Now, Darwin, who created the evolution religion, said that if that cell was anything other than a blob of protoplasm, basically little blob of jello, let's use that for simple terms, okay? If it was anything other than that, more complex, then his whole theory, and by the way, he called it a theory, okay? That means he's just bringing out thoughts, okay? It doesn't mean it's fact. Others perpetuated the thing and have made it into a religion. Anyway, Darwin said if that cell was anything other than a blob of protoplasm, a little blob of jello, then his theory would fall apart. Well, along comes the 1950s, microbiology. They can now see inside a cell, and it's an incredible design of intricacy, of complexity, and just unbelievable you can't see this thing. And the little machinery, the things that are going on inside the cells is mind-boggling. The evolution religion ended in the 1950s. The founder said, if this is proven, the fact that the cell is anything more than a blob, his whole theory is no good. It ended. But yet, it lives on in rebellious men. Okay, so because it's living on, I want to bring out one more thing. And I want to do, if you excuse me a second, I want to do I'll tell you a little story and see what you think about it. Okay, now, if you had a baby, I don't know, newborn, fairly young, whatever age you want to be, and you were going to go on vacation, but you decided you'd leave the baby home. But you made sure that you had plenty of food in the house, whatever formula, or mama's milk, whatever, depending on the age. You had plenty of money in case the baby needed anything. You had the telephone there. If there was any problems, you have the list of the police, the fire department, whatever the baby would need, whoever the baby needed to call. You made sure the air conditioner heater worked fine. Just baby had to adjust it to make sure it wasn't too cold, wasn't too hot. All that kind of stuff. Plenty of diapers. So here you go. Leave the baby. Don't put it in anything. You maybe put it on the floor so it can move around. And then go on vacation for a month. What's going to happen to the baby? How's the baby going to be doing when you come back?
Not good.
Not good at all.
Not good? Would it be alive?
No.
No.
No. Why not? Everything's there.
It's still young.
Okay. All right. Now, I'm saying that to get us to think. The baby doesn't know to go get the food. The baby doesn't know how to operate the phone, couldn't reach it, whatever. It's an absurd thing that I'm saying. I hope that nobody would ever do something like that. But why I'm saying it, evolution says that you start with this primordial soup and then you just kind of somehow start developing life. How, and remember, you cannot have any intelligence behind it. Nothing can tell this evolving thing what to do, how to do it. If that baby can't figure out to feed itself, to take care of itself, how is this evolving life going to know what to eat? Is it going to be poisonous? Is it not? Is it even going to know to eat? How is it going to know that? The baby just starts, and God built in, I'll say, some things where the baby will cry. Well, stop crying, get up and go get your bottle. Well, it's not going to happen. How did these developing life forms know they had to eat? I thought of another thing. What if they're still evolving? They got the brain, they got the muscles, all that. The nerves aren't there yet. guess what? The muscles do no good. Even if it knew to go get something to eat, it couldn't move. Had to be complete. Had to be told what to do. We go back into the beginning in what God says, and he shows that he told people. He told them what to eat. He was guiding them through all stages of our existence. We see God ordering societies, God telling people what to do. How would we possibly know how to take care of ourselves by accident, including the animals? How do they know what to eat? Oh, it just happened. Just like it would happen with the baby. No, it wouldn't. The odds are absolutely, absolutely impossible that a species could die off that fast in any of the ways I brought up and continue. Be sustained. Even if it was halfway created, it could not sustain unless it was created and guided and informed by somebody who knew more than it did. Or they, or whatever it was. Everything glorifies God. Everything shows intelligent creation. Now, what I'm hoping is that we are thinking. We started off last week, we talked about the devil would steal thoughts from people's mind and make them no good, that people could get focused on the busyness of life or be worried what people would say if they thought different than evolution or whatever. What I would like, what I hope we will do, is we will continue to think. Come up with our own examples, but continue to think. We're going to continue this teaching. I'm going to keep taking it through. Next week, we're going to talk about what some people have said who are not believers. And we're going to examine some more things. And then we'll look at what Jesus did, and then we'll look at the Bible itself. And so, what I'm hoping is that we will really, really think about our eternal future. People will take hours poring over data, looking at articles when they're going to buy a car to save a few dollars, which will mean absolutely nothing in eternity. Would it not be logical to spend a few hours thinking about studying just to see if this is really real? That's what I'm hoping that will start. I'm hoping especially young people. Maybe been fed a lot of evolution stuff. Think about it. Your eternal future is in your hands. It's in our eternal future is in our hands. That's what we're bringing this teaching for.